Good evening and welcome to BCN News. I'm Sarai Mangawa and I'll be leading our news tonight. Leading our news, the government today announced the rollout of the second booster vaccination will begin this month. The second booster is recommended for those 50 years and over and is on voluntary basis. Meanwhile, the Health Department continues to investigate into the current outbreak and efforts to contain the spread, which prompted the move to alert level yellow last Friday. The total number of active cases on the island stands at 11. One of the cases is a passenger from Monday's flight. Here's more on this story. In a statement this afternoon, Minister of Health Honourable Colin Tukuitonga announced the rollout of the second booster shot, saying that a second booster dose may be beneficial for those most at risk of serious illness from COVID-19 and with a gap of 6 months from their last booster. The vast majority of Niueans became eligible in July 2022. The Pfizer-BioNTech booster is administered on a voluntary basis but is recommended for people over 50 years old and healthcare workers. The current outbreak, which started on Friday last week with 5 people, has been identified as affecting 3 different households. 2 of those households have residents who travelled in from Auckland a few weeks ago. This latest outbreak linked to the border are being investigated for possible breach of health requirements, which prompted this warning from Premier Tagilangi on Tuesday this week.
I'm sad and it's unfortunate what happened, but let me remind those that are travelling into Niue. Falsify those travel applications to come here. There's heavy fines. We'll be facing prosecution once we delve this, because this is the things that impacts because certain individual or whatever that or those who falsify those documents in order for here, because we put that up purposely for a good purpose of protecting our people. But this is what happened. But I must thank the Health Department. They're the ones who behind the scenes, the COVID team and border control.
On Tuesday, 30th August, one new case was identified as one of the passengers amongst the flights that arrived on Mondays this week, bringing the total cases to 11. No new cases were detected from yesterday. The island didn't return to Alert Code Blue earlier this month from the 18th of August until last Friday, when the National COVID Committee announced they returned to Alert Code Yellow. Stay up to date with the latest developments on the official Niue COVID website at covid19.gov.nu. It was quite a busy week for Whalefono, with 3 high-level delegations visiting the island over the past 2 weeks. BCN News had the opportunity to speak with Premier Honourable Colin Tukuitonga this week about New Zealand Foreign Minister's visit, Nanaia Mahuta, also Japan Ambassador to New Zealand, Ito Koichi, as well as China's Ambassador Wang Xiaolong. Here's Esther Pavihi with more on this story.
New Zealand's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honourable Nanaia Mahuta, and her delegation visited the island 2 weeks ago and were the first high-level visit of a foreign dignitary to the island since the pandemic 2 years ago. Premier Tagilangi said he was pleased that not long after his official visit to Wellington in July, Minister Mahuta followed up with a visit where she saw firsthand Niue and what we do here, and also discussed some important opportunities leading up to celebrating 50 years of self-government and free association with New Zealand in 2 years' time.
We're happy that she's quick to come here to visit us after our discussion with the Prime Minister and of course with herself as the Foreign Minister, the Deputy and other ministers. So I'm very pleased that they are serious. They take note of our discussions, and she was very quick to jump and come over to visit and have a look at some of the work that we have been undertaking during the COVID period. It's not easy, but we managed quite a few things like this building, but I think most of all it's us acknowledging the support that we have received.
The next dignitary to visit was Japan's ambassador to New Zealand, Ito Koichi, where Premier Tagilangi said that it's always good to welcome donor partners to the island so that they can see how their money is being used, but also to look and to see the local conditions. Niue is also exploring opportunities to open an office in Japan in future.
I think the key here is for them to see firsthand the projects and the machineries or tools that they gave us or what they funded. So that is important. By doing that, then they know that we're putting their donor funds and machineries or whatever into good use, and that's a key for it. But also exploring other areas where we needed support, so they can continue supporting those areas. How we're elevating ourselves out internationally, that we might be pending everything goes to plan. And I might be visiting Japan before end of the year to have a look at we might be opening our new office down in Tokyo. But these are the things to finalize with the ambassador on their side of things, their protocols. But this is something that the government's been working on for the last 2 years.
And last week, the People's Republic of China's ambassador Wang Jialong presented his credentials to the Premier and Cabinet and held meetings with Premier Tukuitonga, mainly around the commencement of the roading project and other new initiatives.
Talk about, what's interest for the both countries, and again acknowledge the support, but mainly about the roading project and other funding that they have available for us that we haven't quite utilized, because this funding that they have allocated like every year, just like other countries as well that we have diplomatic ties with, but we haven't quite utilized or used those funds. So it sort of accumulates, but we have a big project like the outstanding project like the Justice Courthouse. So we'll flag that, and we'll also flag other vision or some of our new initiatives and others moving forward. And one of that, it's Koikaina.
Premier Tukuitonga will be travelling out on Monday next week for a meeting of the Asian Development Bank in the Philippines.
An investiture ceremony was held at the Government House in Auckland last Friday, where Sir Colin Tukuitonga was appointed a Knight Companion for the New Zealand Order of Merit. It was an emotional ceremony and day for Sir Colin, who shared how overwhelmed he was when he received his honour. Here's more on this story. Sir Colin Tukuitonga was nominated in May this year, and after accepting his nomination, he was informed in June, on the weekend of the Queen's birthday, that he would be bestowed with the knighthood. New Zealand's Governor-General, Her Excellency the Right Honourable Dame Cindy Kiro, knighted Sir Colin Tukuitonga along with 7 others with the New Zealand Order of Merit last Friday. An emotional and overwhelming feeling overcame him when he received his honour, said Sir Colin to BCN News on Monday this week.
The Governor-General is someone I've known professionally for many years. And she was talking to me, congratulating me, but I didn't really hear what she was saying because I was overwhelmed and I started to cry. It was like, it's like when my first child was born, I guess. It completely overwhelms you.
Sir Tukuitonga told BCN News that as much as he wanted to hold his investiture ceremony in Niue, he is grateful to have received such an honour and hopes to hold a special celebration on the island in the near future.
I really wanted to have this investiture ceremony in Niue, so I wrote to Government House saying, this is important for me and my family. It's important for Niue. I'd like the ceremony conducted in Niue. And they wrote back and said the Governor-General didn't have any immediate plans to go to Niue until October next year. And given I have some personal health issues that need to be sorted, and I decided really I couldn't wait until October. It was too far away. And so I decided to have the ceremony in Auckland at a time when it was offered by Government House.
Sir Tukuitonga's main message when asked about his advice for upcoming young leaders and those who are specialising in the field of public health, he said to show up and do your best.
Concentrate on what you want to do. Surround yourself with people that support you. And believe in what you're doing, whether it's public health or education or sport or whatever. And as I keep saying to people, if this old guy can be acknowledged in this way, I'm confident that many of our young Niueans would do the same.
Sir Colin Tukuitonga is grateful for all the congratulatory messages and kindness that he has received in the past week. Director General of Health and Social Services, Galen Tasmania, confirmed yesterday afternoon that the Health Department, in their investigation of the first 5 cases last Friday, found that the cases were from 3 different households. In a government press release, Director General Tasmania confirmed the investigation into the cases identified on Friday last week.
Director General Tasmania said that by the end of Friday last week, they had identified 3 different households where members had tested positive. 2 of these households included recent travellers to the island. She said that they have evidence of an exemption granted on the basis of a fit-to-fly certificate, which is now in question. This documentation exempted the traveller from a pre-departure test in Auckland, and this in turn set off a series of events that exempted the traveller from in-country testing under current protocols for historical or previously infected persons, according to the Director General. BCN News understands that government officials are questioning the validity of some of these fit-to-fly certificates. It's understood that a fit-to-fly certificate may be issued using false information if the passenger informs a medical practitioner that they had tested positive for COVID-19 within the past 28 days when they had not actually tested positive. This then exempts them from pre-departure tests 48 hours prior to travel, and as well as exempting them from the PCR tests on day 1 and day 3 upon arrival into Niue. In this scenario, this passenger who had never tested positive for COVID-19 will avoid completing all the PCR required tests and can bring the virus undetected to the island. In an interview with BCN News, Premier Dalton Tangilangi warned those intending to travel to Niue on future flights that falsifying their pre-departure travel documents will incur prosecution and heavy penalties. Niue High School, in collaboration with the Health Department, held a school-wide COVID-19 testing campaign yesterday. According to the school's Facebook page, students and staff are required to participate in the campaign and to complete a rapid antigen test from their homes. Over the weekend, a notice from the Department of Education and Niue High School identified one student as a positive case and announced that Niue High School will not be holding face-to-face classes, that students will be studying remotely. To ensure the safety and protection of the students, a school-wide COVID-19 campaign also took place yesterday for Niue High School. Here's more on this story. The 242 students of Niue High School and the 43 staff members will be completing their Day 2 RAT or rapid antigen tests from their homes tomorrow. It is unclear at this time whether the school will continue with remote learning next week or whether the normal classes will resume, as the results of the screening or the campaign has not yet been made available. Meanwhile, the students of Niue Primary School who were close contacts of their teacher have completed their second PCR test yesterday and are cleared from isolation. The teacher was one of the first 5 cases detected on Friday last week. Last Friday marked the 2-year anniversary for the Australia High Commission to Niue after its establishment was made 2 years ago on the 26th of August 2020. Australia's High Commissioner, Her Excellency Louise Allerton, to Niue at this moment said that it is her honour to represent Australia in Niue. Here's more on this story. The opening of Australia's High Commission here in Niue has helped deepen our relationship and is enabling us to intensify our cooperation. Australia and Niue enjoy a friendly relationship based on close community links, participation in Pacific regional organizations, and shared support for an open, resilient, and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. Australia has provided development assistance in Niue for more than 25 years, including through scholarships, community grants, and funding supports for infrastructure projects such as the Niue Primary School, wharf repair, and the Whalefono too. Her Excellency Louise Allerton extends her appreciation to everyone who has supported the mission over the last 2 years. The weekly Air New Zealand flights will change from Tuesdays to Saturdays, according to Air New Zealand officials, which will begin in early November this year. A new Air New Zealand automated check-in system will also be launched at the airports starting next week, Monday. Esther Pavihi reports. BCN News reached out to Air New Zealand officials who confirmed that from the 4th of November, the weekly flight from Auckland will move to a Saturday instead of Tuesdays. That means that Air New Zealand will arrive in Niue on a Friday and not Mondays. The new schedule will start in November until March next year. And also on the island, there are Air New Zealand trainers currently and one technician installing a new automated check-in system at the airport. Air New Zealand's new automated check-in system will be launched on Monday next week, finally going digital after serving Niue with weekly flights since 2004. On Monday next week, passengers from Niue will finally be able to use the e-gate on arrival at Auckland International Airport.
A Women of West Coast Communities Climate Justice Advocacy Conference took place last Friday at the scenic Matavai Resort. BCN News was able to speak with Project Coordinator Jamal Talangi-Vedriaki, who shared that the conference was aimed at a gendered approach to understanding the impacts of climate change and gender-based violence. Here's more on this story. 50 women from the West Coast communities attended the conference last Friday. It was a great turnout for the facilitators Jamal Talangi-Vedriaki, Makefu Falekahoatua Women and the Makefu Village Council. BCN News spoke with Jamal yesterday afternoon, who shared more about the event.
The project started last year for 12 months and funded by UN Women. And last week is one of the activities that we carried out with West Coast women of Niue is to share our message, to share that message of advocacy so that encourage women to be advocates for their families, for their communities, so that we can receive or look for resources to help us adapt and be more resilient to the impacts of climate change.
Some of the key objectives it discussed at the conference included raising awareness, building capacity with the women, and achieving overall cohesion to address climate change adaptation, says Jamal to BCN News.
We're just moving towards the end of our project, and we have a final activity, which is our storytelling activity. That's for the women of Makefu. We'll be gathering to tell our stories and also showcase our art pieces that will go with the story. The stories of disaster or the experiences with the impacts of climate change in their lifetime, and these stories will help everyone, especially in our community, to understand each other's how everyone was affected, especially from the cyclone happened in 2004. Seeing that it's 18 years now since that cyclone, we'll share our stories on how everyone was impacted.
Jamal says she is very grateful for the support for the Makefu Falekahoatua women.
I just wanted to thank the community, the village council, and the women of Makefu Falekaho for their support, and also the departments, the government agencies that have supported the project as well. And we look forward to further collaboration for our young people as young advocates for the climate justice.
Climate Justice Advocacy Project Coordinator Jamal Talangi-Vedriaki. And that is our news bulletin for tonight. Do join us again next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, for more of our local news. Until then, wishing you all a safe weekend. Continue to stay safe and be happy. Mutolukia.